Well, we're thrilled to be here because after having been through so many meetings that we aren't, meeting with people, it's been quite a change. Brad, of course, is the one who presents all the facts and figures and those kinds of things about the programs, and I'm here just to provide a little color and comments. I have my own little things that I say.
And correct me.
Oh, and correct you. Yeah, I do that too. Training my second city administrator.
That's right. Well, I'll go ahead and jump in. I second everything the mayor said. This is our first State of the City address since we've been able to do since 2019 after COVID hit. So we haven't been out either. So maybe we're rusty. I don't know. Yeah. We have a lot to talk about. So we'll jump in and we'll get the inevitable out of the way. How we've been responding to COVID. First and foremost, our goal is to keep everybody safe, our employees, our residents, and when we respond to this pandemic, making sure that people keep trust within the city. Back in 2020, we received $2.3 million from CARES, the CARES Act, and $400,000 of that went to small businesses and nonprofits in the city or those that serve the city. We did allocate more to that, but we didn't have as many applications. So we have another allocation of funds from the federal government, the ARPA funds. We have $3.4 million from that. We're taking kind of a slower approach. We're collecting public input and how we want to use that. The CARES money came at us pretty quick, and we had a quick turnaround on how to spend that. So we tried to get it out the door as soon as possible. It was also kind of in the middle of the pandemic, so we wanted to make sure that those businesses that were hurting, we got that money to them. For the ARPA funds, we have some time. So the theme of this presentation will be Let's Talk Savage. We're taking public input on that website. If you guys have different opinions or different ideas on how to use that money, we'd like to hear from you on that. But besides getting money to the local businesses, we also loosened regulations for restaurants to provide flexibility on how they provide their services, allowing them to expand outdoors and go into their parking lots when they couldn't have as many people on the inside. And I think that was really successful. And then just internally with the types of programs we did, we developed creative ways to hold those traditional events, like, for example, Halloween, Christmas, even just our basic services, our building inspections. That was one of the things I was most proud of. Our building inspection staff did a great job of continuing to provide their services because we did not slow down. People were at home, they were doing their home projects, etc. We still needed to get out there and inspect those. We still needed to receive those permits, those applications. And doing that while we were closed down for a little bit was a little bit challenging, but our staff found creative ways to make it work, and I think they did a great job. And then lastly, I already mentioned this, but the Let's Talk Savage website, that's where we're collecting information on these new funds, the ARPA funds. We anticipate that we'll be making decisions on those in December, maybe January. So if you got ideas, let us know.
And I just wanted to talk about a minute some of the things that we did internally, because one thing that we did, we purchased some software earlier. We had planned to do it in the future, but we decided to purchase it during the COVID because it was an opportunity for businesses to communicate with the city totally without contact. And so the plans could be up on the screen, they could make changes. Everybody who was in the room, and we heard from a number of developers how helpful that was because they didn't have to come here for all those meetings.
Yeah.
And the other thing I just want to point out on the pictures up there are our city council members. Matt Johnson's the first one. Gene Abbott is here, and he's the one in the mask. Bob Coughlin and Christine Kelly. And no, that's not me, that's Stacy Crakes. She's the chairman of the Planning Commission.
And then we have to mention, so we were doing our Santa Cop event. So here are our police officers all spread out, masked out with our Santa Cop, Dwayne Johnson, who's a resident of Savage, and he actually won the Crime Prevention of the Year award from the state organization. So he does a great job too. You may have heard that we had a tornado go through the city of Savage here a couple weeks ago. And our staff, I would say, did a great job of responding to this, cleaning up all of the debris, responding very quickly to the residents and the residents' needs. We put together a little bit of a video I would like to show you here. So this is the tornado going through our Public Works building. That's when everybody lost power.
Anyway,
Sorry
for
about
those
that.
who were driving out and about, you saw the damage to the Public Works building and Community Park,
The point
Glendale
was,
School property.
apparently it's not going to work for us, but the point is that our Public Works guys get out there right away. We also had help from Prior Lake in Scott County. They loaned us some double axle trucks because our need at that point was just to get all the debris out of the residents' yards and help them pick up. So we ended up taking about 400 tons to the organic recycling facility at the SMSC. It was not free. We didn't charge the residents for this, but it cost us about $14,000 to haul all of that away. The city facilities received quite a bit of damage too. Most of it was concentrated in the Public Works area. So you can see here, this is our Public Works building. All the flashing got blown up. We had a HVAC unit on top. It blew over. Right now we're in the process of evaluating if the roof is a total loss or not. It's had a lot of puncture wounds in it. There's a large dump truck in front of that garage door, and that's to help secure it because we had 3 garage doors get blown out. What we think happened was the wind came from this way, it blew that garage door in, and then it blew out 2 garage doors on the other side, and those went flying across 27 into the substation across the street. So we had no other ways to secure the building, so we just had to put our dump trucks in front of it. There's our poor brand new pickleball courts that were damaged. We put the black stuff you see on the fence, that's the windscreen that we put on that day, and what we think is it acted as a sail and caught the wind and blew it over. And then we have a bunch of large trees, lights down. That's our salt storage tent right there that got torn to pieces. The trees are significant because our insurance policy says we'll replace trees if it's within 100 feet of a facility or a building. These trees out in Community Park were not close to any sort of building, so we'll probably lose those too. If we replace them, we don't know. So there are thresholds for when the state and the federal government will help you out. If you have uninsured costs that reach a certain point, we likely will not reach that certain point. So We do have good insurance. Some of the insurance, like the roof and stuff, will be covered, but there's other things that will not be covered, and we'll just have to cover that ourselves.
And it'll take, of course, 4 months to get the garage doors replaced.
Yeah, that's a good point. So like I think everybody else has experienced this in the room. It's taking time to get a lot of the supplies and the resources that you need. We're running into the same thing with this storm recovery. Another big event that happened in 2021 was that we converted from a paid-on-call fire department to what we call a combination fire department, because we're not full-time, not everybody is full-time. We have a combination. So right now we have 6 full-time firefighters, 4 firefighters, 2 captains. And we're also utilizing part-time staff. So we took our paid-on-call staff, and so the way paid-on-call was is you had a beeper. If something happened, your beeper would go off, and then you would respond to the fire station and see if you got on the truck, if you were needed, etc. The way we've transitioned it is that they're part-time now, and so they're scheduled. They know when they're going to be there. And so what this has done is provide us better, more efficient coverage, 24-hour coverage. Our response times have decreased by 3 minutes. And when they're there in the fire stations now, like before we had scheduled training, now they can do a lot of that training while they're in the fire station. They're taking care of the fire station when they have downtime. And you can see here our call volume has increased quite a bit over the last couple years. Part of this is that we're taking on more medical calls from our police department. And one of the things that we've been kind of concentrating over the last couple years is that whenever something new happens or a mandate comes from the state or there seems to be a social problem, a lot of that gets put on the police. Police have to respond to everything. They have to respond to the criminal complaints, the mental health complaints, the medical complaints. And so this is our attempt at taking more of those medical calls away from the police so the police can focus on the things that police really should be focusing on.
So you're seeing that how that increased. We were at 700, almost 700 calls in 2020, and really for our paid-on-call firefighters, that was almost like a breaking point. And so we'd been planning this for a couple of years, and now we made the move as of July 1st.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mayor. Our paid-on-call, when they were paid-on-call, and even our part-time, they have family lives. Most of them have full-time jobs outside of this. And our call volume was just going up dramatically, and it wasn't like it was in the 90s or the 2000s when they were getting like 300 calls.
But the thing is
year.
that, 25 or 30% of those calls are fire-related. All the rest of them are medical, car crashes, lifts, people fall out of bed and need to be, that's all the kind of stuff that they get called for that a lot of people don't realize.
And we're averaging about 30 calls per week, so this year-to-date number in 2021, that will surpass the 2020 number here pretty quickly. And I checked with our fire, I said, is this just because we're doing more of police calls? And initially in 2019, 2020, yes, but now it's just year over year we're getting more calls for whatever reason. Just to touch on the liquor operations, because this has been in the paper a couple times. Hopefully we don't have to talk about it too much longer. But our liquor operations are in a good place now. We had a little bit of a period where our sales were stagnant, that we were basically breaking even when we were making money. And we reorganized things a little bit back in 2018, and our sales are going up in 2020. Well, from 2020, what we were able to do in 2021 is we were able to make a transfer for the first time in 10 years. So we transferred $400,000 into different community projects, and those were the monument signage, the community playground park that is over here. This may start in fall, but it will definitely be started in spring, completed next year. We get a lot of questions on that.
Well, that's the one where we had the fire.
Yep, that's where we had the arson and the fire. And then we're also doing LED light conversions where it makes the most sense. So these LED light conversions, they take quite a bit of money to get done, but there's usually, depending on the facility, a good payback within 3 to 5 years. So we're trying to put money towards there too. Because over the last several years we were just breaking even, there was a lot of deferred maintenance that was deferred, and we're trying to address those in 2021 and 2022. 2021, we also introduced a new rewards program, so we just kind of revamped our discount program. This is a pretty good program. It's all kept on an app, so you go in, you sign up. It's kind of like the Hy-Vee rewards. If you go in there, you just have to give the cashier your phone number, and then your points get put into your account, and once you hit like $200, or if it's your birthday, or if you're a new sign up, you get a $5 to $10 reward from that. The other thing I'd like to point out is that, as you can see on the left-hand side, our gross profits have increased quite a bit. And this is something that I'm really proud of, because this is one of the targets that we were focusing on 4 years ago when we started digging into the liquor operations. Back in 2017, 2018, our gross profit margins were around 21%. The average for a municipal liquor in the metro area is 26 to 27, so now we're above average, which is great. But back then, sometimes certain months, we were dipping to 17 or 18% profit margin, and that was really hurting us.
There's always a discussion about, well, no, periodically, about whether cities should be in municipal liquor. For us, it's been a long history. Prior to that little dip that we had there, they were paying for all the bonds for the library. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of like a blessing in disguise with the COVID whenever all the bars got closed, because the liquor stores got to stay open. So that's why we were so busy.
I will say the 2020 numbers are a bit of an anomaly. When we're trying to do our benchmarks, we're not even looking at 2020 because they're such crazy numbers. We pull them out. The liquor proceeds paid for this building too, or portions of this building too. And then lastly, they've collected $10,000 in donations just from, this is not from sales or anything like this. This is just having buckets on the cash register counters, asking people to donate $1 here and there if they have a specific program. Like we did a partnership with the Humane Society, Scott County, Carver County Humane Society, and then also a partnership with the Savage Fire Relief Association. So they've raised $10,000 that we're just getting out to other groups in the community as well. Something else from 2020, 2021, if you recall, we had the census in 2020, and there was a hard push to have everybody fill out their census, and I think we accomplished our goal, and that goal was we were supposed to beat Wisconsin for our completion rate, and I believe we did that in 2020. So it takes a couple years to get all of the information from the census, and we started getting the initial information from the 2020 census. As you can see here, we've grown from 2010 to 2022 by 5,500 people. That's about the size of Elko New Market coming to the city of Savage in 10 years. Our household size grew slightly, 2.9 to 2.95, but I put that up there because Savage is a young family community. Mayor asked me for the average age, and I couldn't find it in time, but we're a young family community. The state average is 2.5, and the national average is slightly less than 2.5. We're at 2.95 average household size. Two other things that came from this information is that our BIPOC population grew from 19% in 2010 to 27.3% in 2010. I think that's a significant jump. And then kids who are 17 or younger, 38.8%, 39% identify as BIPOC too. So the BIPOC is Black Indigenous
people of color.
Thank you. So we're diversifying. That's the message here. We knew that we were. I think these numbers kind of explain how much we really are diversifying in the South Metro. Shakopee, Burnsville, they're seeing the same data that we're diversifying more, and there needs to be a response to that. And so we are listening here as a community. I think there's strides that we can take here. There's things that we can do here to help promote race equity. And so back in 2020, 2021, we've been making some progress. We started these 3 community conversations on race, and we had one specifically on policing. And we did that one after the George Floyd killing. They were very well attended. One of them, we had over 100 people. Most of them were in this building. Great attendance. 2020, we also joined the Government Alliance on Race Equity, and that just kind of helps guide us in the different projects we may or may not take on. It's just a good resource of information, different cities that belong to this. And so if we have a question like, how are you addressing this, or how are you handling this, it's a great information resource. We also implemented race equity training into our annual training curriculum here at the City of Savage. So if you don't talk about it, then you don't know about it, you don't grow, you don't learn. So we committed to having race equity as our annual training for our staff. We also have fire and police that are reaching out to the schools, and they're developing programs to help grow the profession in the schools. And part of the initiative is to help reach a more diverse audience of students that may be interested in joining the police force or the fire department. Later on, I'll state in here, I'll show that the police is starting a Police Explore program, and I think it's with 191. We also hired a firm, Green Espel, to help de-jargonize our job descriptions. And so for me, I think a lot of this is difficult because it's a lot of talking, conversations, learning. And I like doer, I like concrete things to get done. And so I'm like, what can we do now to help get more people interested to apply? Because one of our problems is that we apply, we put our job application or job publications out on all the regular places, and we're just not getting a diverse pool of applicants. And so that's on us. And so one of the things we did was hire this firm to de-jargonize our job descriptions. And over the years, when you have a job description, it kind of changes with the time, and people look at it and they add stuff and they add stuff, and after a while it gets more complicated than it really needs to be. So this was really interesting because we trimmed down our job descriptions quite a bit by going through this process.
And it's not to say that we don't have minorities on our staff, but the comment that we hear is that, well, maybe they aren't on the council or they aren't our department heads, although we do have some. I think the thing is that those who are working in our city who are minorities don't want their pictures all taken and put up on a bulletin board or something, because they want to, be part of the city but not be publicized. And so we're seeing them in different departments, but just not in a real front way yet.
But I think for me, one of the telling statistics is that you saw in our 2020 census information where 28% BIPOC population in the city of Savage, and then there's more in Burnsville, there's more in Shakopee, but at the city of Savage, I think we're at like 3%. So I'm not saying that those have to be equal, but I feel like that's probably a low number, and maybe there's something we can do to help increase that number.
But part of that number also shows that, the city of Savage has a high per capita income, and we also have a highly educated community. The statistics show with the two-member family educated.
Yep, we're above average, we're above the state, we're above the national averages in both those categories. And then starting actually tonight here with Defong's Catering, we're going to be having our first Ready Task Force. The Ready Task Force was started by the City Council in July of this year. This came from the 3 community conversations on race. The last discussion we had, the group brainstormed, what are certain things that we could do to help continue this conversation? And so one of those was to start a city commission. There's different terms out there, human civil rights commissions, et cetera. We felt that like maybe that was jumping in a little too fast. So what we've decided to do is start this task force that will look at some of the policies of the City of Savage, what's going on in the City of Savage, and make recommendations about things that the city should pursue going forward. Maybe one of those will be to establish a permanent commission. We don't know. But it's up to them to have these conversations over the next year to figure that one out. And then just some of the developments that happened in 2021. These are new developments. These are not like the businesses. We have a lot of businesses that are coming in to existing buildings. I don't have this on here, but here are the new businesses that came to town. So first of all, we had 69 homes built, and these are home units. They're not single family homes, they're home units, built in 2020. 74 home units built year to date in 2021. We think that number will be up towards 85, 90 by the year end. New commercial projects. We actually had quite a few new commercial projects in 2021. We have Serenity Clinic that's going to go behind Cal's. Christian Brothers Automotive that's going to be built by the daycare that's in front of Hy-Vee. The Holiday gas station that's going to go down around 126th Street and Highway 13. I think that'll be a welcome gas station along that area. Children's Dental, and this is the Children's Dental facility. This is going next to Office Max in the Target development. And I thought this was really unique. They're not using the whole site, so they're going to have a little bit of a plaza area between Office Max and their building, which really I think helps the design and the layout of their lot there. Norabella Senior Living, and then the Caribou Cabin, which is going downtown. They're rehabbing the old Motor Mart site, and I think we'll see more redevelopment sort of like this. I think this one's pretty ambitious, but my point is in Savage, we're kind of running out of commercial industrial lots. We'll probably be seeing more redevelopment. This goes along that theme. So they're taking the Motor Mart site and they're demolishing part of it. They're using another one and they're making one of those Caribou Cabins downtown. So that'll be great when we have our farmers market events. New residential, the developments that came in was Big Sky Second Edition, Hampshire Preserve and Hampshire Ridge, which are along Hampshire south of 154, and Eagle View Villas, which I'm not sure how to explain. It's kind of behind Scott Lake Veterinary, more to the south, but those will be nice homes as well.
But on 13.
Off
Yeah.
13.
I mean, it faces 13.
Yep. Other accomplishments that happened in 2021, we had the monument signage plan begun. If you've seen, we've had new monument signage at the campus, City Hall campus, and then also at the 2742 intersection. We've had some comments about the 2742 intersection. I'll kind of explain why we decided to do something there. I would describe that corner as a dead corner. We have the, back, if we could go back, and I think Barry would say this too, we would not have put a water tower at that intersection because that's a really nice intersection to have something. But we did, and it's there. And we tried to do a natural vegetation approach to the landscape there. And that probably worked for a couple years, but I think the message got lost and people kind of felt that it was more weeds than natural vegetation and wildflowers, et cetera. So it wasn't looking the greatest. Plus we have two utility buildings there, one for our utilities, another one for Nuvera, that were just prefab buildings sitting there. So I would call that a dead corner. So one of the reasons we put it there was to help liven up that corner. It has a great design to the sign there, great landscaping, so that livens it up. And also, that corner is the second most traveled intersection in Scott County. The first one in Savage, but the second one in Scott County. And it's just anticipated to get more traffic through there. So that's why we decided to choose that location.
But there's some more history there. Because for years and years and years, we wanted to do something on County Road 42 as it went through Savage, either do something with the medians, with trees or vegetation, or some kind of signage or whatever. We planted various things at various times, that didn't go. And so in trying to work with the county, because that is a county road, there were a lot of issues that came up, and so that's why we abandoned the beautification of County Road 42 there. I mean, we'd love to have it look, I would love to have it look like Glendale. To me, Glendale accomplished a lot of things, and it's a beautiful piece of road. It's called, you know, it worked with the traffic, it worked with everything that was on that road, from the single-family homes to the apartments, to the 2 schools, to the dental office, to the bank, to the apartments. I mean, there's just no end of what's on that road. And so, but we couldn't do anything like that. So that's why we ended up with this sign.
And we have more signs scheduled over the next couple of years. You'll see them in the downtown where you come in off of Quinton, potentially on 42 by Target and or by McDonald's. The question is if we have room there. There's some constraints with the utilities and right of way, and then potentially on 16 coming in from Shakopee.
And I always want one by Prior Lake Rental, because nobody realizes that that's in Savage
Prior
either.
Lake Rental is Savage Rental. Also, if I haven't mentioned it, we have a new public engagement tool, letstalksavage.com, so check it out. So this is a website that we're using. We will have different projects on there throughout the year that we would like to get the public's input on. So right now we have the ARPA plan, which I've mentioned. We also have a photo contest on there. So if you have any great pictures of Savage that you would like for, number one, to get out there, or potentially for the city to use for like a calendar or something like that, upload it. And then we're also using it right now for a placemaking plan that we're trying to get public input on as well. We created a new zoning district called the C4 zoning district. This combines elements of the I1 industrial zoning district in C2 commercial district. This is really for the commercial areas around Highway 13. We saw that they needed more flexibility in how they use like outdoor display and other things, the other types of uses that may go in there. They're basically doing outdoor display anyway because they're on Highway 13. That's just a great use for them, and we recognize that, so we changed our zoning ordinance to allow that. We allowed some other uses as well. One of the most notable is that we allowed microbreweries, and we do have a microbrewery that's planning on coming in. I'm not quite sure where they're at in our processes, but I've been watching their website, and they posted that they have signed the lease for in Savage, so I assume they're coming at some point. It's called Loons Landing?
Loons Landing,
Loons
and it's in the business park.
In the business park in Savage. So we also changed our code to allow golf carts. So if you have any golf carts and you need to get around or something like that, you can drive around your golf carts.
Only on city streets, though.
Yep, not on county or state highways. Please stay off of them. We stepped up to step 3. Green Step City is a 5-step process. So we've done a certain amount of projects that gets us points in the state program. We're a step 3. We'll likely hit step 4 next year. And step 4 is where you identified certain performance measures. And then step 5 is you're influencing those performance measures by the different projects you do. So that will be coming. As you may have noticed or heard, Loftus Farms sold for redevelopment, the last active farm in the city of Savage. The Meadows Senior Living Facility will be starting next year at that site.
We have to tie those together, though, with the signage, because when that development, as they were coming in with the planning for that will be tied into the signage, and there will be trails that will be going from that development by this signage and things, so that it'll be all landscaped from the corner back to the Loftus Farm.
It'll look really nice. We renegotiated our 2 cable franchise agreements, As I stated before, we started this placemaking study, and I'll just kind of touch on that real quick. This is not to identify a bunch of areas to redesign and do the redesign and say downtown should look like this and community park should look like this. What we're doing here is that we've contracted with a firm, and they're reaching out to different stakeholder groups. Dan Patch Historical Society is one of those. The Arts Council is another. Our boards and commissions, so if any of you are on our boards and commissions, we've set a meeting for October 20th to have you guys interact with our consultant, and they want to know how you're using public space in the city of Savage. Where does your family and friends gather? Where do you think people are using the city of Savage, and how do you use it? What makes it a great place to gather? And based off of that, and some other information, they're going to identify potential areas for the city to focus on next. And they're also going to provide us some draft policies for the city council to consider for when we want to do projects, how we would consider placemaking or doing something a little above and beyond when we do these infrastructure projects. So it's not saying we're designing downtown like this. It may say downtown is a candidate. If you want to do something, you should target that area. And then it'll be up to city council to say, next time we do a project down there, let's do something to help improve the public space there.
We have to go back to the franchise agreements because we've heard so much about that because Channel 11 isn't on Savage Cable anymore and people don't like it because they're their favorite programs, and so that's beyond us, you know. That's actually on the federal level, and now DirecTV also no longer carries Channel 11, so we're hearing from them too. So that's something that
this is a fight between the channel owner and the cable TV provider.
Right.
The city doesn't really have a dog in the
fight. So
fight.
you get $4.35, I think, credit on your cable bill, but that's supposed to be take the place.
We did increase our cable franchise fees, the PEG fees, et cetera. We hadn't increased them for 10 years. So they did go up a little bit. And that kind of ties into our last item, which is we started the Savage TV app this year. So if you are a cord cutter and you're relying on the Roku or Apple TV or Fire Stick or whatever, we have a Savage TV app, so you can tune in to your latest and greatest park board meetings or city council meetings. Or what I like to do is Anthony, who's in our back there, and Emily and her staff do a great job of putting together these different community videos, the ones that we almost saw, the tornado video. They do a great job, and a lot of those videos are on there as well. So looking forward to 2022, I'll start with our budget. This is the preliminary budget that's been adopted, our preliminary levy and tax rate. As you can see here, we are in our 9th year of decreasing our tax rate. You can see here that starting in 2008 with the housing crisis, which really didn't bottom out for us until 2013 when our home values bottom out. After 2013, they started going up. We had to react by keeping our levy flat as possible, and then the tax rate increased. And then after 2013, 2014, our assessed values started to increase. That allowed us to decrease our tax rate. So this is the 9th year that we've decreased our tax rate. And this is a graph that we like to track. This is the average city home and where our city taxes are at. So you can see the dashed line. The blue dashed line is the average city home value, and it bottomed out in 2013. And since then, it's had a pretty good resurgence. So now we're at, the average city home is at $386,000. Our taxes, the city taxes, this is not the school district or the county or anything like that, but this is just the city taxes. They've increased over 14 years by about $1,150 around that area. So that's pretty good over 14 years. For 2022, this may be what your home values and your taxes may be impacted. So most home values we saw are around 7-8% increase. The average city home value is less than $385,000. So generally in this area of $50, your taxes will increase by $50. If you have a home that's valued less, you'll see less. If you have a home valued more and you have more increases, your taxes, of course, will go up with that. So what do you get with that? What are you paying for? Well, you kind of have to compare it to what else is out there, what's relative to the city taxes. So you have the premium car wash that you need to get, which costs $87 a month because you need to have a clean car. To keep up on your binge watching, you need internet plus Netflix, Prime, whatever your subscriptions are to follow Tiger King and the other programs that you watch. That's $150 a month. Family membership to Lifetime Fitness to make sure that you guys go and work out after watching all of your TV shows. That's $150 a month. Youth sports leagues, one kid is about $200 a month. Just in case they might be the next Pele or something out, you got to make sure they're getting in these leagues. So you can figure that out, $200 a month. So for the city of Savage, where you're getting 24-hour coverage of police, fire, great streets, great parks, trails, they're all kept up. Our public works goes out and helps clean up your streets when the tornado goes through. That's $124,000, or excuse me, not $124,000, $124 a month on average. This is the average home. This is how much they're paying. So per one of those last slides, it's $1,487 a year, which comes out to about $123.91 per month. So that's what you're paying for all of your services. If you look at it as like a subscription that you're subscribing to Netflix, your internet, etc. Where does that money go? Well, most of it goes to public safety. You can see the big chunk is police there, and you combine that with police. That's roughly about half of the money that the city takes in taxes is going to public safety. Another big chunk of that is public works. When you combine public works with Parks and Rec, because that's how we do it. And then you have your general government, which is administration, finance, IT, that helps make those things work. And then community development is followed up with $8 of that $124. So looking ahead to 2022, what are some of the big infrastructure projects that you guys are probably going to be seeing? Dave mentioned this. This is the Highway 13 project. If you're familiar with Trunk Highway 13 Dakota intersection right now, it's an at-grade intersection. And Highway 13 is it's congested right now. It has 8% truck traffic because of the ports of Savage. That's twice what you would normally see on a typical metro highway. And because of that, and I would say just because of the commercial and the things along Highway 13, we have a lot of traffic. So the MnDOT has come up with a plan where they're going to improve the intersections throughout Highway 13 between Savage and Burnsville. The Highway 13, or excuse me, Trunk Highway 13 in Dakota will be the first project, followed by Chowan. And if you guys saw in the news, there is an unfortunate fatal accident here this last week at Chowan. But Dakota will happen first. They'll start doing small improvements here in the winter, and this will really start going in the spring of 2013. So this is what Dave Fong was talking about. Highway 13 will be limited down to 2 lanes, so if you think it's congested now, it's going to get really congested next year. And I'm just telling you, it's going to be a little painful, so bear with us, find other ways. The official detour is County Road 42, but we know people will find other ways to get around to where they want to get around, so there's going to be more traffic through Savage in 2022. The next one is our local streets project. So we have a local streets plan that we follow every single year. Last year it was in Dufferin. It's going to be in Dufferin again this year. So if you live in any of these areas, you will see some construction in the spring of 2022. And then we have a grant to help us pay for a trail connection between Idaho Court and County Road 27. Usually this wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's going over the Credit River, so it will involve a bridge. So it's a bit costly, but we have a grant to help pay for it. We've also taken some of our liquor proceeds that we're able to transfer, and it's paying for some of that as well, but that will be completed in 2022.
And 150th Street ends right across there. So that's a way to get people out to County Road 27. They can go to Clary Lake Park or to other parts of the city.
Or Murphy Hanrahan, like if you're on
Yeah.
your bike or you're walking or running, this is a great shortcut.
Yeah. Okay, moving right along.
What's going on in 2022? We have the Police Explorers programs is partnering with 191. Minnesota MASH is going to begin development west of City Hall. This is going to be a private youth baseball program. Big Sky 3rd edition is going to be starting. We are going to continue with the monument signage program. The next one is slated for downtown. We'll continue with the READY Task Force. Their recommendations will be completed at the end of 2022. We're also working on a Park and Rec master plan to talk about what we need to do on parks and our recreation. We're doing a fire department staffing study. This was just the beginning. We started with the 6. The 6 was really to just get our foot in the door. The staffing study will tell us where we need to look over the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to be looking at putting in EV charging stations, electric vehicle charging stations at City Hall. And then 2022 will also be our year for the biannual community survey. Do you have any to add to that one?
No, I'm waiting for the next slide because I have all kinds of
next
things
one is
I'm going to
thank
say. I'm just going to say a couple things about some of the things that I've gotten questions and emails about. People periodically say, well, what's going on at the depot? Well, the depot is privately, it's rented by a restaurant right now. It's called Casa Deli, and they do infusion food, it's called. It's called Mexican and Mediterranean and that kind of thing. Good responses. Another thing is like we hear about, because Perkins and Bonfire both closed when the pandemic started, so both of them are open now. Pauhana is in Perkins, and that's a Mexican restaurant. No, that's a Hawaiian. See, you're all listening. That's a Hawaiian restaurant. You have to be sure you get a reservation. And the Crooked Pint, that has several bars around the metropolitan area, is going into Bonfire. And then he mentioned the new brew pub. The senior building at Fenn Point is adding 40 new apartment buildings. They're under construction right now. Some people say to me, well, how come we have Norbella just opened up. That's a place for assisted living, as is the Rivers of Life. And people are saying, well, why do we need all of those things, as is Loftus, which is a senior building? Why do we need all those in Savage if we're such a young group, such young population? Well, the reason is because that young population, their parents are coming here because they're here. That's what you're finding out. We have the dollar store. That's interesting. We don't go around and search for businesses. We do the zoning and people come here. And we're a city that doesn't really give a lot of perks either, but that hasn't stopped our growth. The one thing that we did do is, though, we did purchase Valley Oil, because that was something that wasn't selling. It was on Highway 13, didn't look good, and so we took all the oil tanks out of there, the gas tanks and whatever, and now we have Everlight Solar there, and a drone company that started in Savage, Maverick Drone, 7 years ago, and now expanded in our city. Continental Machines, we thought maybe we were going to be having to do a redevelopment there, but a person came in, bought that building. Now we have the Continental Business Park there. A lot of business are starting their small businesses that are successful. So we got 2 minutes left for some questions.
Yeah.
Comments. Barry.
Anybody else besides Barry?
Okay, you're going to challenge us.
No, the ARP funding
Yes.
Yep.
that you mentioned, where you want people to go on and ask for ideas, but there must be some restrictions on it. I mean, we can't use it for more pickleball courts, can we?
Yeah,
Well-
we have,
yeah.
on the right-hand side, I'll say this, maybe, I don't know. On the right-hand side, we have what it can be used for, what it can't be used for. The caveat I would put towards that is that there's a lot of people coming up with creative ways to find ways to use that money. And so we're taking everything with kind of a grain of salt. That's why we'd like everybody to throw their ideas at us. Don't necessarily be confined by what the broad categories of eligible or not eligible are, because we're seeing a lot of people use the money for things that we initially thought, like, we didn't think that would be eligible for that, but other cities are using it. So we want to see and hear all of the different ideas. Other questions? Anybody besides Barry?
Can you support or refute the rumor that I've heard that the city's put in the budget, the CIP, 8 additional pickleball courts, just for the south and west of the additional pickleball courts?
I can refute that. It's not in there. I will say, you know, Barry's point here is that our pickleball courts have been super popular since they've been put in.
Yeah.
I don't know whose idea they were. Probably weren't Barry's. But the Rotary donated money towards these projects, and they've been filled up since we opened them. And I'm not saying like during the prime hours, like Sports Center is always filled up between 5 and 10. We have people using the pickleball courts from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Right. The thing is, the older ones are using it during the day, but at night, it's tremendous amount of families.
We had a city-run pickleball tournament this weekend. I was not able to get to it, but I hear that it was extremely popular. People are having a great time because it wasn't just people, you know, a softball tournament, people come there and they segregate into their teams and the parents are segregated. Everybody was socializing, talking to one another. It sounded like it was a great time.
The other reason I bring it up kind of tongue in cheek, though, you mentioned that you're going to be taking input on just where people congregate and that
Yeah.
type of thing. And I think it's important that, you know, communities need to adapt. And we have adapted pretty well in our community, I think. But even as you look at our ball fields now, just right out here, I remember when my kids were young, they were used every single night. And now they're not used every single night. So, you know, facilities we have, should they be changed? Should they be something else? What? I don't know. But these are the things community members should be thinking about
Yeah.
as we, you know, get
We
into
are-
that process.
We are doing a park study too, to evaluate those kinds of
Did a
things.
park study 10 years,
I know.
less than 10 years ago.
I know.
It was
A new one, things
pedestrian
change.
trail
Things change.
master study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed one of the items that you're going to be doing is the electric charging stations
Yeah.
just at City Hall. Do you have any plans to expand that to other areas where?
Potentially. So this is what our plan is we know that people are coming to City Hall and they have electric vehicles. People want to have access to these. So there's a couple grants that we're pursuing to help pay for these at City Hall. And we want to start by putting these in at City Hall. The next step for us is to do a fleet analysis to see if it makes sense for us to do it anyplace else for like doing electric vehicles, because we're seeing now that electric vehicles are becoming more available for city fleets. Now this doesn't mean like our 2500 HD trucks are going to be electric, but like our building inspectors that are driving around that don't need to put a bunch of crap in the back of their trucks or cars or whatever, that would make sense for an electric vehicle.
But charging stations is extremely complicated. You know, if you have a Tesla car, you can only use a Tesla one. And the other ones, you know, they can't be really high powered if you have a hybrid. And so you know, we're studying the whole thing because it is.
The ones that we'll put at City Hall will likely have a credit card swiper, so you have to pay for it. Won't be all free. The ones we do, if we do anything differently, for example, Public Works or City Hall, the vehicles that are at City Hall may look something different.
I just had a discussion before this meeting with the representative for Minnesota Valley Electric to talk about that. And you know, the grid, and there's just so many things involved in that. It's really quite complicated.
Yeah. Mr.
You
Abbott.
mentioned the reconstruction of 13 and Dakota.
Yeah.
You should also mention the reconstruction of 27, even though it's not in Savage, but it's from 44 going south.
Yeah.
Underway now.
A lot of
So
people, yep, a lot of people take 27 south to go to Lakeville or other different destinations for job work, whatever. They've started it this year. I don't know if you guys have been down it. They've cleared out a lot of the trees to help expand the right-of-way. They actually had to close it down for 3 or 4 weeks to do a drainage pipe to Cleary Lake. As I understand it, they're going to close it down again next year during the spring or early summer when they're doing more infrastructure projects. So it will be a bit of a pain at the beginning. There'll be good detours, but after that, I think it'll be a really good road because it was kind of in poor shape, undersized for the last couple years. If you were a biker on that road, God bless you, you're in trouble if there is a big truck or anything that was driving next to you. So this will give access to biking, it will expand the right-of-way, it'll be a lot better road.
Anything else? I want to be cognizant of your time, so I think we were supposed to be done at
I have
1 o'clock.
101.
Oh, I was going with that clock. We did a good job.
All right, thank you.